So we said that the algorithm for conversion of postfix into an expression tree could be that, or even, could be that we can make use of the postfix evaluation algorithm. So the algorithmic template remains the same. It's just that the details need to be changed. Earlier we were using a stack for operands, which we continue to use here also. And then we have, whenever we encounter an operator, we pop two values from the stack, apply the operator, and push the result into the stack as well for postfix evaluation. In this case, we might be dealing with variables because we want to convert, we don't want to evaluate the postfix expression, we want to convert it. So in such cases, we could pop the two elements from the stack, create a tree with the current element as the operator. So that creates a small subtree, and push the root of this subtree back to the stack so that that becomes available as a subtree, which can be further utilized in by the later operator. So that was the algorithm that we thought about for the postfix to expression tree conversion. This particular code that I'm showing is going to have that particular part. So we have this postfix class, which is from our postfix evaluation. Right? So this eval function, if you recall, that was used for evaluation when the expression contained only digits. But what we require is the tree part, right? So therefore, I have another class where we have the tree node, etc., that we know of, right? And then there is additionally, I have added a function called set children, which is going to set the left and the right children for a particular node, right? For this node, I mean. The rest of it remains the same. We have this left and right pointers to the left and right children. How does this code work? First, we'll look at main, and then we'll come back to these functions inside TreeNode. So the main remains very similar to how it was for the postfix evaluation. What does that mean? That means that I give the postfix expression as a command line argument. So argv of 0 is a dot out, and argv of 1 should be postfix expression, which I give. So that argv of 1, I initialize the postfix expression with that, which essentially is going to store that postfix expression. This postfix expression I give to the tree class, tree classes constructor, which internally builds the expression tree automatically. I don't have to even call any function on T. We'll see how to do that, but essentially the template is going to be similar to evaluation of postfix. And then I can, once I have built this tree, I can as well print it in the in order form to make sure that I have constructed the right tree or not. Alternatively, on slide, we can visualize it, right? In a similar manner, there is a visualization tool called GraphViz, using which we'll be able to visualize this tree. And I'll show you how to do that. But that requires you to print the tree in a particular format, right? So I'll explain that. But first, look at what happens in the tree class, in the constructor itself. Okay. Any questions so far on this one? Whatever we have seen so far. Okay. So let's come to the tree class. So this was all tree node. We'll come back to that, but let's look at first tree. So the tree class contains a constructor, one constructor which just initializes root to null because tree has a root, and then another one which we are actually using, which uses the postfix form to initialize the postfix expression, right? So we'll see what that does. And then there are auxiliary functions like creation of a node, then in order traversal, then create from prefix, that is create the tree from the prefix and return a root to this particular postfix expression, which internally uses another create node, which essentially takes an operator and the top two elements of the stack, create node for that character, that operator, attach the left and right children from the stack, or right and left children from the stack, and then return the root of that subtree, right? So that is our create node function, and this is for printing in the GraphViz format, which we'll study later. Okay, so let's so in order, we know in order is just as simple as it was earlier. Let's look at create node. What does create node? Okay, this create node, first we'll look at create from. I think we should look at the constructor first. Yes. So the constructor of tree, which takes the postfix expression class or object as an argument, and this is passed by reference, which means that we'll be able to even modify EXPR. Although we don't really need to modify EXPR here, pass by value would have created a copy of EXPR, which is probably not required. And to avoid that copying overhead, I'm using pass by reference. So the constructor itself, as we were looking at in main, that itself calls create from prefix, which means that as soon as you call the constructor of the tree, your tree is built with that expression. So that is the function just above that. Create from prefix. What does it do? It's exactly the same algorithm that we know. It uses a stack. It goes over each character in that expression string, right, which is the postfix expression. This expr.toString, toString is a function inside the postfix class, which just returns the string. If it is an alphanumeric character, which means that if it is a variable name or a number, that means a digit, then I create a node corresponding to that character and push it to the stack. So the operands we are pushing to the stack. In contrast, if it is an operator, that is plus minus star slash, then using the top two values, I'm going to take the operator and create a node corresponding to that, link it to the top two elements. And this create node is different from this create node. This takes one parameter, this has two parameters, but their names are the same. So this creates a subtree. Right? So using this subtree, it returns a root to this subtree, and that I push to the stack. So this is also similar processing in the context of postfix evaluation, just that we were returning the value, pushing the value. If it is space, then I skip, which means that I allow spaces. Otherwise, it's an invalid expression. At the end, the stack should contain the root of the complete expression, and therefore the stack size has to be exactly 1, whose pointer I return, and that becomes the root of the expression tree. Right? So any questions about this create from prefix algorithm or anything else that we have seen so far? Okay, keep your mobile phones away. So let's look at now what happens in create node, right? So there should be two create nodes. One create node is simple. So this is the one that we need to worry about. So this is the second one. Yeah. So this create node is a simple one. What it does is, given a data item to be put inside a node, tree node, it just creates a new tree node with that data item. Okay? And that pointer it is going to return. Right? So that is the job of this simple create node. In addition, what it does is that if the root happens to be null, that is, this is the first node to be created in the tree, it also updates the root. That is just a kind of additional mechanism that reduces some coding. Otherwise, we will have to require that this create node returns, I mean, this anyway returns, but in main we will have to handle changing root, but root cannot be accessed directly because root is likely to be private variable. So we'll have to provide an API to assign root. Right? So instead of that root update happens directly inside the create node. If root is not null, then you don't have to worry about updating root because root is already set. Right? So this is our first create node. Let's look at the second create node, which is going to be a little more complicated. What is the job of create node? Create node says that pop two elements from the stack and create a node for the operator. Assign the two nodes from the stack which you have popped as children of this newly created node for C, and return this new C. That is the pointer to the node C. So if the stack size is not at least 2, then there is this expression is invalid. So that check I make. And importantly, I remove 2 elements, but importantly, these two should be n2 followed by n1 because I am pushing them as left and then right. Right? There is a postfix expression. So AB plus. So I am going to pop B first and then A. So that I need to take care of. Therefore, this is n2 and then n1. So this is the right node. This is the left child. CPTR is the new create node. So this create node, which has 2 arguments, calls create node with 1 argument. These are 2 different functions. This has nothing to do with recursion. CPTR arrow set children sets the left and the right children, and I return the pointer to CPTR. Right. So that is the function create node. We have looked at create node, create from prefix. So the only thing that is now remaining is this printing of in GraphViz format. I'll explain that, but if there are any questions, please feel free to ask. Okay, there's pin drop silence today. Okay, so I can print the tree in some in order format or post order format, pre-order format, just to make sure that it is working fine. But if I can visually depict it, that nothing like it, right? So there is a tool called GraphViz, which allows you to print it in a particular format. So what does that print GraphViz do? It has some syntax. So what it says is that, okay, I'm going to create a directed graph whose name is G, whose edges are inside these braces, the opening brace and the closing brace. And then print GraphViz is another auxiliary function wherein I'm going to print the tree recursively. What does it mean to print the tree recursively? Let's look at that. So I'm going to pass root as a parameter. If that is not null, then I do something. If the left child is not null, so I first print the left child and then the right child. If the left child is not null, I'm going to say double quote, print the data of the node, then arrow. Yeah, that is correct. So print the data of the current node, then the arrow, and then the left child's data. So this is like a left hand side edge. If the tree consists of A as the root, B and C as its left and right children, then I need to print A, arrow, B, and then in the second case I have to print A, arrow, C, right? So if I give these 2 edges, then GraphViz knows that I'm talking about nodes A, B, C, and therefore it will try to visually depict those edges, A connecting to B and A connecting to C, right? So that is what I'm doing here. And then I go inside the left part and print its subtree, right? Exactly similar is the right part where I print A, arrow, C, that is the right hand side child, and then I go further deeper and print the right subtree, right? So that is the print GraphViz format. So let's that is the format that it understands. So we'll see if this compiles. There is a warning which can be taken care of with -std C++11 or something more than that. And then I need to give postfix expression as an argument, right? So let's say that I give 1, 2, 3 plus 4 star minus, right? So that is, let's say, the expression that I want to give. It gives some whatever are the subtrees that it is creating, and then it creates a diagram, right? So this is the print. This is the GraphViz format, which you can use to print it somewhere, right? So that somewhere I will tell you, but this essentially means that I have a minus sign which goes to so minus to one edge, then minus to star edge, then star to plus, then plus to 2, and plus to 3, and star to 4, right? So this is not really the most appropriate format the way I have printed, because this expects that all the pluses, I mean, there is only one plus, there is only one star, otherwise we won't be able to distinguish, etc. But this suffices for our purpose, that's why I'm showing it here. And now I'm going to share the screen completely so that you are able to see the graph viz. So let me copy this, and there is a website called webgraphviz.com. So within that I can paste this and generate the graph, and it shows pictorially whatever we have given as the links, right? So our expression was, postfix expression was 1 2 3 plus 4 star minus, right? So that is 1 2 3 plus, right? So that is this part, 4 star, that is this part, and then minus, so that is minus with 1. So using such a mechanism, you will be able to visualize how whether your output is correct or not. Any questions so far? Okay. If there are no questions, then I will move ahead and I'll stop presenting the entire screen and we'll start presenting the slides. Okay, so so this was our algorithm which we have seen already, and the code also we have looked at. Okay, so let's come to what are the different operations that we can. So that completes our discussion on the expression trees. In general, when we are talking about trees, we need to have some sort of an insertion being done of a new node, right? So that new node can be connected to that existing tree by connecting it as a child to an existing node, and that add child function can take care of this, right? And in fact, there is another function that we wrote just now, add children, which can allow you to add multiple children, right? So given the 2 pointers, add child is actually a constant time operation. Similarly, removal might turn out to be another important function in the context of tree ADT. Remove meaning that I want to remove a particular node, right? Now, removing that node means that I need to first access the parent, because the parent is connecting to this node. Similar to our singly linked list, we cannot go back, and therefore if we have reached a particular node or given that node's address as an argument, then we don't know where to look for the parent, right? So therefore typically this removal is based on the value which you need to search, and then you also keep track of what the parent is. If it is not given, then we might have to even maintain the parent links as we do in the context of doubly linked list, so that you can go back. So in this tree, there are representations of trees wherein you keep the children pointer as well as you keep the parent pointer with each node, and that can be very helpful if you want to go back. So if the node that is getting removed does not have any children, you just set the parent's pointer to null. So you identify the parent pointer either by traversal of the tree, or if you are maintaining that parent pointer, then you can just update the, if it is a left child, then left pointer to null, if it is right child, then right pointer to null, right? So that can be done. But what if the node is internal, it's not a leaf node that you are removing, right? So what all can you do? Any suggestions? At least I'll hear something today instead of speaking all the time. So the question is that if the node being removed is an internal node, it could as well be the root. How will you take care of it? Suryanarayan says first leaf node encountered in level order traversal. Yeah, I didn't understand the answer. Can be used to replace the non-leaf node. Okay, so so the first leaf node encountered, which essentially means that somewhere in typical trees, when the leaf nodes are going to be at the bottom, the leftmost one that we encounter, that can be used to replace the non-leaf node. Right? So what that means is that uh, that node is being moved as a leaf node. Sorry, the leaf node is used is replacing the node that is being removed, right? But this is going to change the structure of the tree, right? So the original tree had a meaning. When you are removing a particular node, that means that semantically the tree should still remain with the same meaning as it was before, and therefore we cannot arbitrarily replace the node being removed by some leaf node, right? The meaning should remain the same. Okay, Andrea says would have to remove all its children too. For example, in the binary we would be restricted to this option. Yeah, so depending upon the application, we might have to, if the expectation is that when you remove a node, all its children should also, all the subtree rooted at that node should also be removed, then it's all right. Then what Andrea says we can do. Right? And but there could be applications where you are representing the information inside a tree, and we are going to do that soon when we look at the binary search trees. The internal nodes might have to be removed, but the remaining tree should remain intact, and we'll have to then deal with how to take care of the children. Pawan says replace with a blank. That could be one possibility, where there is a sentinel value which you store, so that you don't really delete that memory, but you just mark it that it is deleted. That could be one option. Abhishek says move that node to leaf node and then remove it. Correct, but if we move that node to the leaf node, what happens to its children? That is the question. So I hope the point is clear, right? So you have some node X which needs to be removed. That node is internal node, which means that X has some children, let's say Y and Z. X is, let's say, root's child. Now, if I remove X, if according to the application, and as Andrea has suggested, if I can remove X, Y, Z completely, then there is no problem. We can remove all of that, and as well as free memory. But if I need to remove only X and Y and Z need to be retained in the tree, then there is a question, because root has only one pointer which was pointing to X. Maybe it had some other pointer which was pointing to something else. Now, what will it point to? Will it point to Y? Will it point to Z? Abhishek says mark with sentinel and leave it. Okay. Murari says entire subtree with removed node as a root has to be changed. That can be changed however we want. Okay. Salman says we can make the parent of the node adopt the node's children. Yes, this is possible provided the parent has enough space. If it's a binary tree and the parent already has two nodes, one of them is getting removed, and now two nodes need to be added, left and right. So that is where the issue comes in, right? So this is not easy to solve, and some of you have given these answers of moving to the leaf node, etc. That comes in. In fact, we are going to look at some of that as we reach the binary search tree and heaps, where we will perform operations using the leaf nodes, especially the removal. Right? So we'll have to come back to this. In general, you cannot have solve this problem because there are two pointers which need to be linked, and there might just be one link which might be present, which might be free with the parent. Right? Okay, so something else needs to be done, which might be dependent on the application, right? Or even the nature of the tree, the way we will see it. Okay, good. Thanks for some communication at least. I feel that I mean, the class is live now. All right. So depending upon that, depending upon what we do, the complexity of removal might turn out to be even order 1, right? So, uh, or it could be order n also. Mm. Searching requires traversal of the tree, right? I'm searching for a particular value in the tree. Some questions that might come up is, what if the tree contains duplicate values? Right? In that case, I need to anyway search for multiple such instances, so I might have to search through the complete tree. But in general, this is still order n because there is no ordering amongst the nodes in this tree. As soon as we add some ordering to the nodes, we are going to be able to perform certain operations quicker than order n. In the current setting, whatever we have seen, it's going to require time linear in the number of nodes, and we will improve upon it as we look at binary search trees. So in the worst case, anyway, we have to look at the complete tree. For example, the value might not be present, and therefore we have to make sure that we look at the complete tree. So that is where order n time complexity comes into picture. Okay, so there are a few other questions which might come up when we study trees, and I thought that I'll just list those down. And in case you have any such questions or more questions, feel free to ask. What if a child node is common to two parents? Any suggestions? Okay, Shania says it's not a tree. Suryanarayan says not possible in tree. Pawan says not a tree. Visharad says not a tree. Yes. So we said that this is not a tree. Murari also says this is not a tree. What does it represent? Graph. Okay, something slightly more. Yeah. So Suryanarayan also says graph. Shania says DAG, right? So it will become a directed acyclic graph. This having two parents doesn't necessarily create a cycle, right? It is still a tree, but with one additional edge or a few additional edges where one node has multiple parents. In that case, it becomes a DAG, directed acyclic graph. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, and I think Ramita or one of you had asked this question that in an ancestry, how can you have in ancestry actual we have, how can it be a tree, right? So the answer lies here. You are right that it cannot be a tree. It will become a DAG. Can the age be undirected instead of directed? Visharad says graph can have multiple edges per node, so it can be a graph. Yes, graph is a more generic structure than a DAG. So each tree, each list, each DAG is also a graph. But the graph can also contain a cycle. We would like to be as tight as possible, right? So when we say that the traversal is order n, it is also order n square. So graph is like order n square. But we would like to be tight, so it actually is a DAG. Traversal is order n, like that. Okay, can the edge be undirected? Can be undirected. Murari says yes, it can be undirected. Depending upon your application. The applications that we saw used pointers, and therefore it was automatically one-way path, one-way edge, or one-way link, and therefore it was directed graph. But it can be undirected. Interestingly, uh, in the undirected case, in a tree, if you add an undirected edge, right? So, okay, let me step back. In directed graph, in directed trees, whatever we have seen so far, when you add an edge, that need not necessarily create a cycle, right? It can create a DAG. However, in undirected graph, whenever you add an edge to a tree, it will always create a cycle. Right? So that is one property of undirected graphs. undirected trees. Okay. Can the edges have weights? Any suggestions? Anybody knows any applications where the tree nodes, the tree edges might have weights? Markov chain, very good. Yes, Salman says yes, Suryanarayan says yes, Mayank says yes. Murari has given this suggestion, an application. Any other applications of weighted trees? Distance between places. Yes, if it happens to be a tree, then we can use distance between places to be a weighted edges. And here says neural networks visualized as trees, correct. Visharat says random forest. Sure, that is also possible. Yeah, that is possible when you have these as separate trees. We'll have to have those as trees. Then it's possible. It can also be a graph. All right, so sounds good. So you guys are aware of some of these weighted edges or weighted trees. Can there be multiple roots? Oh, Shania says WordNet. That's also possible, right? So when you are storing some sort of a dictionary or synonyms, antonyms, etc., that can be an interesting application of a tree. But I think it turns out to be a DAG in general. But yeah, if you are restricting yourself to a tree-like structure, then it will definitely have weighted edges. You're right. Murari says no multiple roots, right? So it can't, I mean, a tree has to have only a single root. If there are multiple roots, then it becomes a right. Suryanarayan says it becomes a forest. Correct. All right. So can there be multiple edges between two nodes? Like A to B, there is an edge, and then A to B, there is another edge. Okay. In our trees, no. Have you seen an application where such a requirement might be there? Google Maps. Why is that, Shania? Do you mean multiple edges with different weights? Well, it could be different weights also. But can there be multiple edges with or without weights? Some applications. And yes, is two roads leading to same destination, right? Sure. Yeah, so if we assume things to be rectangular, which is not always the case, in many of our cities, we have two roads which go to the same destination. I mean, sometimes it becomes little problematic to tell people that you go from Gajendra Circle and you take Bonn Avenue or Delhi Avenue, you will still reach the gate, right? So that is, in some sense, two nodes having multiple edges between them. Okay. Manichandra says Google Maps is not a tree. Yeah, it depends upon what we are visualizing. So I wanted to understand what Shania had in mind. Like we said initially in one of the applications. So if you think about the road network, that is not a tree. That is going to be an arbitrary graph. In fact, it's an undirected graph. But if you view different levels of zooming in, that can be viewed as a tree. So I don't know what Shania, same thing Andrea said. What? Okay. So you were talking about the roads having same source and destination. Sure. I'll also give you another example. For example, in case of social networks, there might be people who are connected by multiple ways. One could be a friendship relation, but there could be other relations, for example, which might not be explicit. Those might be implicitly there, just that those get represented when the websites will perform analytics on the social network. For example, people who belong to the same country, they might form a cluster. So an internal representation might put all of these having ages between them, or people from a particular age group, those will be forming a cluster, or people from the same institution who are alumni of the same place, that can form ages between them, and so on. There could be multiple such relationships across two people. I mean, sometimes, right? Sometimes in families, such a thing happens, right? So, you are already related to somebody, right, in the family, and suppose you get married to that person. Right? So you are already related via some relationship, let's say some cousin or something, and then you, if you get married, then you also have the relationship. The previous relationship doesn't cease to exist. In fact, you have now two relationships with the same person. So that way it becomes another way in which multiple edges might be there in real world between two entities. Okay, but whatever we have seen, that is going to have only a single edge between that. But I'm just trying you to understand multiple aspects, because finally computation is about representing the real world phenomena in computers. And finally, is it okay to draw a tree with root at the bottom? I'll leave that question for you. Okay, let's now switch gears a little bit. Murari says, is proper undirected tree cyclic? If it is a tree, it can't be cyclic. If it is a tree, it can't be cyclic. Because we said that for n nodes, we require n minus 1 edges. N minus 1 edges cannot create a cycle for n nodes. And as soon as you add any one edge, then it is going to create a cycle. Okay. Any other concerns, questions? Yeah, as I was saying, if you have any other further questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, we are going to change the topic, or not change the topic, but we are going to look at one interesting application. Okay, so let's look at coding, right? And coding this time is a little different than what we understand by coding. So we are going to look at codes rather. So I want to transmit some data over, let's say, a network or a wire or something. The data contains the alphabets A to Z and space. And for these 27 characters, I obviously need, 5 bits, because 2 to the power 5 becomes 32. So I'll be able to represent 32 characters with 5 bits. So the encoding pattern, one of them could turn out to be like this, where I say that space is represented with 5 zeros, A with 1, B with 1 0, and so on, and Z with some pattern 1 1 0 1 0, etc. Right? And some of the later bit patterns are unused. Right? And how do I decode that? Well, I just take the 5-bit string. So 5 bits from each of these, the given string, and each of these 5 bits is going to represent a unique character. And therefore, I'll be able to do a reverse map of, given a particular code, I'll be able to figure out what character it represents. So I can do an encoding easily from a message to bit string, and then decoding from the bit string back to the message. Right? Does this seem reasonable? Any questions on this part? Okay. So I hope this is clear, right? So can somebody tell me what is this with our encoding? So definitely there are 6 characters which we have. Let's see who is the first one to figure out what this message means. Vikas says Huffman coding. No, that is not. We just need 6 characters. Huffman coding is something which we are coming to, but I am just asking what is the meaning of this bit string. Visharat says left shifting each bit. No. I think I'm not. I think I have not conveyed the question correctly. See, we are given a string of bits and we want to identify what the original message is. So Pawan has nailed it down. It's dynamo. Right? So, okay, good. That means that we are on the same page with respect to this. But in case this is not clear, please ask. Is the encoding and decoding clear? You are given a message, let's say dynamo, which you want to convert to bit string. So D you are going to represent as 00100. That is the first 5 bits. Then Y is 11001. So you just concatenate all these bit patterns of 5 bits each. And that becomes your message, which you can transmit because the transmitter understands only binary. And this is exactly what happens in the context of our ASCII characters. We talk about ABCD, but internally those are represented using some 8-bit codes. And that is what gets transmitted or even inside used in the computer. So this is very similar to that. But if there is something which is unclear, please ask. All right. So yeah, the question here is, how is this code related to a tree? And that is what Vikash was suggesting, that that Huffman coding is something which will probably be requiring a tree. So let's understand that. One way of representing this code in a tree-like format is that I start from the root and the path is denoted by a weighted directed sequence of edges. So which means that 0, 0, 0, 0, 0 is going to lead me to a node which represents space. 0, 0, 0, 0 followed by 1 is going to represent A, and then 0, 0, 0, 1, 0 is B, 1, 1 is C, and so on. That way, the tree is going to give you actually the encoding. So if I, so the first thing is that it is a binary tree because we are talking about only 0 and 1. And you can have a representation which says that left is always 0, right is always 1, but that is just a convention. You can have the opposite also. If you mirror the tree, then you will get the opposite code. And tree is almost complete because we have most of the codes are present here because we have 27 letters out of 32. So there will be some parts which will be null. It has a height of 5. Well, height in terms of number of edges, but if you count in terms of number of nodes, then it might be 6, right? Depending upon what you want to call height. And each character importantly has a unique code, right? Because because we have also said that there is a unique path from root to any node, and there is, so that also maps to the unique code, right? And here, although I have mentioned this to be weighted, we need not really store the weight explicitly. So what we can do is that whenever I'm accessing the left child, I say that I'm going to 0 or I'm going to output 0. Whenever I'm going to the right child, I'll say that it is 1. Right? So I don't need to really store that weight 0 or 1. That is more for our understanding. So how do I encode given this tree is that traverse back from, so given a character, traverse back from that node. Let's say I'm given B. So I'm going to traverse back from here all the way to the root. And what I get is the reverse of the code for B. Correct? And that also means that you need to keep track of the parent pointers. And what will be the decoding? Well, the decoding is easy. Whatever code is given to you, let's say 00001, you just follow that from the root and you get the corresponding character. Right? So using this, we'll be able to both encode as well as decode using this. Okay, there are some. Vishara says, how D is 00100? Okay, I think there is later a statement. Oh, okay, understood. Thanks. Pawan has given the explanation. Aula says for later. What does the node store? Murari says, what does the node store? It doesn't store actually anything. The final leaf nodes might store ABCD and space, but the internal nodes need not store anything other than the pointers. Right? As of now, there will be variations of this where we might require to store something, some other characters in the internal nodes, but the internal nodes are more for navigation, not for the data. Okay. Any other concerns here? Okay, so now understand this part first, that there was a problem of encoding a message using bits, and that we have converted into a tree-like format, right? So this is a different shift. There is a different way of looking at the problem. And that is what might be required sometimes, that the problem might not come with the data structure embedded in it. You will have to devise a data structure. Andrea says, why does it need to be weight? The 0 and 1 could be stored in the node. Yes, that is also possible. In fact, that is also possible, but in fact, I will say that even 0 and 1 need not even be stored. Right? As soon as you access the left child, that is 0, right child becomes 1. That is also another way in which that can be done. So you need not even store 0 and 1. But alternatively, you can store zeros and ones with the node itself. That is also okay, because this turns out to be a tree. There are variants where it will not be a tree, it will be a DAG, in which case you have to be careful and store it along with the edges. But since it is a tree, there is a unique parent, and therefore you can store it with the node also. That is fine. Murari says, I think because we have decision to make, root can be only one value. Yeah, I didn't understand that, but I hope that was in response to Andrea. Okay. So, okay, I think now the interior nodes represents a character. That's what I was mentioning. Anyway, so we'll look at this in our next class. But I hope the basic concept is clear. But the most important concept is the problem might not come with the data structure. Data structure you have to think about on top of the algorithm, on top of the problem. And there could be different ways in which you can devise the data structure. Right? Okay, we'll stop here and I'll wait for any questions.
So, I have a question regarding the assignment.
Yeah, go ahead, Pawan.
So, when we are inserting, I'm getting an echo.
Sorry, I'll.
So, when we are inserting to a non-null root, do we have to insert only at a blank? And let's say at the same level there is another leaf. Can we insert the new nodes to that leaf, or the entire tree should be added to the blank itself?
Okay, so I didn't understand the question. So you are saying that during the insertion of a node, do
Yeah.
we need to add it to the leaf or something like that? What was the?
Let's say at a particular river there is a blank and there are also leaves. So
Yes.
according to the assignment, we have to insert at the blank, start inserting at the blank. So let's
Correct.
say that particular leaf gets filled out. So there are other leaves at the same level, which were part of the previous tree, right? So do we insert to those leaves, or everything gets inserted with these blank as a root?
From whatever I understand, it always is with respect to the blanks, as far as the insertion is concerned. So that's what I remember. Anybody else has any clarification on this? Okay, Pawan, I suggest that you post this on the group so that even the TAs will be able to answer it with proper affirmation. But this is what I remember, that we have devised this such that the blanks need to be replaced.
Yeah. Okay, sir.
Yeah. Any other concerns? All right, so we'll stop here. See you in the next class.